In this episode of Detroit Performs, an award-winning folk rocker, an instrumentalist reimagines the sound of the guitar, and meet a craftsman who puts soul into every instrument he creates. It's all ahead on this edition of Detroit Performs.
Funding for Detroit Performs is provided by the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs and the National Endowment for the Arts, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, I'm DJ Oliver, and today we're kicking off Season 3 of Detroit Performs at the Majestic Theater. The Majestic opened its doors in 1915 and has been the site of memorable concerts featuring live music since the mid-'80s. Let's get this season started. First off is Billy Brandt, whose rootsy, folky, psychedelic alternative country background underpins strong songwriting and an adventurous spirit. Let's join him as he speaks about his work and performs live with one of his bands, the Sugarees.
We'll keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. Keep your lamps trimmed and burning. 'Cause this old world, it's almost.
There's an amazing roots folk revival scene in Michigan. It's one of the best in the country, one of the best in the world. There's just unbelievable musicians happening in this genre. Perfect example of why I got into music and why it is transcendent, and I use that word, not loosely. I remember being in the back seat of my parents' country squire station wagon. The radio would be on, and I remember hearing either California Dreamin' by the Mamas and Papas or Mr. Tambourine Man by the Byrds, and it set off some endorphins in my little head that I hadn't experienced yet, and I was like, wow, what's that? Give me a piece of it. So started learning to play the guitar, started playing those songs. The music took me to a place that was better than any place I'd been yet.
Hey, now, watch the sun go down. Watch the sun go down on me.
I ended up in the merchandising business. I was an official merchandiser for 38 Special, Hall & Oates, Spyra Gyra, Marshall Tucker, dozens of others. And then after I left that job is when I started playing, which is 1985. I came back to Detroit from living in New York, and that's when I started playing in bands. And Ashcan Van Gogh is the band I formed then. We played a lot. We were an original folk rock band, which I should say, I've been playing folk rock music from the get-go. I've been a folk singer, and when you add bass and drums to folk music, it's folk rock.
Where the wind brings the stories, I sing them out to you with this old voice and this old guitar.
It's music you can play on a guitar, on an acoustic guitar, you know, anywhere. Pick up a guitar and you got music. Plus music, folk music is folks music. It's really the main music. It's for everybody. It's beautiful, it's got soul, it tells stories.
Well, there's rain in the mountains, it's getting harder to stand. Rain in the mountains, getting harder to stand.
All my stuff, and this is just how I am. I wish I could write a better story song, and a few come up every now and then. It has to come from my subconscious. I can't sit down with a piece of paper and write a lyric. It happens now and then, but most of the time I'm playing chords, and some words will come, I'm on the way, and just I'll even make sounds, because the words aren't coming out of my subconscious yet. So I'll just make syllabic sounds, like syllables, till a word comes. Maybe a few words come. Maybe it's a sentence. Sentence sounds good in the music that I'm playing. That's the beginning. If I can get one verse out, I'll write it down. Then I got a form. Hopefully a chorus, then we're really cooking with gas. And usually it's gonna be something that's probably happening in my life, Or maybe it's not even as clear as that. It might be more kind of oblique looking. But you'll hear it and go, I know just what he means. And I don't even know what I mean. I might later, maybe next year I might know. It's not, because it's not just about songwriting for me. It's about the musicianship too.
Don't let your demons bring you down.
The Sugaries, my current project, actually started as the videos I did with Serrano Berlin and Jason here. We called them Live from Billy's Basement. Well, we ended up with a lot of material, put a record out called Live from Billy's Basement, which won the Detroit Music Award twice, by the way. The band, we just started calling the Basement Band. And we did some shows. Eventually, Serrano moved to England, and I wanted to keep the music going with that basic lineup. That's what Sugaries are. It's a leftover from the Basement Band. The Basement Band was always song-based, but poised to be a jam band. There's something that happens when you're actually jamming too, because it's a big portion of what the Sugaries do. It's a major portion of it. The song is just the launching pad. When that happens, this happens with the players and the audience. A synchronicity that see, the thing about jamming, it's not all planned out. It's not an arrangement. It might become an arrangement, but it starts as something, a risk. You got a basic chord scheme, that's sort of the foundation. And then people start making their statement. The mandolin player plays a lick, and the organ player hears it and answers it. And when that communication starts, and because different than normal verbal communication, well, if we're both talking at once, which we do a lot when we get excited, it doesn't really serve anything. In music, it does. You can overlap each other harmonically, chordally, and you're just building the concept, the idea. It's really happening. All of a sudden, everyone's talking at once. What an amazing miracle. And there's a song called The Lash. That song is a cool folk rock song, but it's designed to have a real spacey open jam that builds and builds and builds, then goes back to that dripping wind across a meadow exit out to sea. That's one of the songs that I really love to keep performing.
And the lashes falling down. And the lashes falling down. Falling down over me.
Favorite songs on the new Sugaries album and our live show. There's only one song like this on our record called Days of Fade, and it's sort of Celtic rock, but it's got a real good bounce to it. And Celtic music is an amazing thing. It's got a dancey feel to it. I mean, the fiddles, the mandolins, it's got a real upbeat, it's a beautiful thing. And I like incorporating it when I can. That's one of my favorite songs on the record.
On the right, they're on the left, they're closing in on us. Can't believe we buy the stuff that's burning in our guts.
A friend of mine, Maureen Hogan, wrote this song called Blue Baby Blue. Real kind of traditional old school country song. I kind of finished it off with a bridge and we put it on the record and it ended up sounding really, really good.
I'm so blue, baby blue, I'm all alone, baby blue, trying to stop this baby blue tears from crying.
But I also wanted to be the birds and the hollies on this record, so singing became a real important thing. It's always been important to me. Time Is Now, Sun Goes Down. They're all heavy vocal songs and on purpose.
So sing those blues, you don't own those shoes. I know times are rough, you can make it smooth. The time for love, let your heart sing out. There's a time for peace, and the time is now.
Our live performances, on a good day, is really great. It's a really way above average vocal performance, full of good harmonies that we can pull off, but we can also jam. If the music kind of flips the door open, then I know it's right for me. It gets my endorphins going, it gets my emotions open. If it moves me and it moves you, it's a victory.
Keep your lamps trimmed and burning, 'cause this old world, it's so
You can learn more about Billy Brandt, the Sugarees, and all the artists featured here today on DetroitPerforms.org. Instrumentalist Jason Milan's original guitar compositions can be spiritual, experimental, and some might say spine-tingling. Let's take a look at Milan's spellbinding work.
I look at music as an escape. I almost think the music plays me more than I play the music. I grew up playing metal music. My big influence when I was a kid, well, I'll start off with my parents' record collection, so Led Zeppelin and more on the jazz side, but Wes Montgomery, and a lot of Metallica. That's not my parents, that was me, but Metallica, Megadeth, Pantera, all those bands from the late 80s, early 90s. Heavy distortion, heavy guitars, lots of guitar solos. Metal's great for technical playing. I mean, especially back in the 90s and 80s. Guitar, before Nirvana, pre-Nirvana guitar was a little more technical and just a lot more influential and something to aspire to. The acoustic was always a good relaxation and release from playing metal music. So that was after playing a crazy show and being all rowdy on stage. It was always nice to grab the acoustic just to mellow out. And that's how the acoustic got introduced, and just a matter of kind of taking some of the metal riffs and world music influence and fusing it into the acoustic playing. My playing right now is all about just awakening yourself and others' spirituality, and just kind of giving the mind a break from all the BS that we deal with, you know, day to day, our day jobs, just the grind of life. During a set, I like to close my eyes and just go on a visual inner journey and just kind of let the sound and my body and the fingers kind of guide that. My music has a world flavor. It's definitely acoustic bass now, but still with electric undertones to it, just from past playing. A mix of flamenco, Middle Eastern, Far Eastern, classical, flat picking finger style. It's just kind of all over the map. And what I really focus on with my music is just the essence of time. I mean, we're all slave to time. So because of that, I like to compose a lot of pieces that are played freely and time is not of the essence or the factor in that playing. So that whole rigid playing to a click, certain songs call for that, but I really dislike the click track. I think that kind of rigidity strips away from the soul and just the freeness of at least what my music's about. I use a lot of effects units, just to more or less to add a lot of variety to the sound. I like to use a lot of reverbs and delays and just make the guitar, I mean, I don't sing and I usually don't have a backing band, so making the guitar sound as big as possible is definitely key to the sound. I really try to focus on simplicity. The simplicity and the catchiness of the melody. I mean, I just put a very strong emphasis and importance on melody. I mean, melody is the code and the key to opening different realms, different places in your mind, different places in your soul. So that the melody is the key. Music for Grasshoppers started off as a concept from kung fu movies. You know, young grasshopper, the whole idea of the student and constantly learning. And another thing with the grasshopper, just being an insect, it's in tune with nature. It doesn't think, it just does. And it doesn't have an ego or a self-awareness to it that distracts it from its purpose in life. And so being in tune while playing music like a grasshopper, and I just feel like I'm playing my part at that time, in that moment, just as simply being and not complicating with overthinking and thoughts. Music is a huge part of society. I mean, it's mainstream culture. Music, movies, all forms of media definitely shape different cultures and who people are. I think my music in particular hopefully has a somewhat healing effect, just to allow people to escape whatever problems that they have going on, or rejoice in whatever positive and good emotions are going on within them at the time. We're not happy all the time. We're not sad all the time. Sometimes we get really angry. Sometimes we get greedy. It's just a matter of being aware of your feelings. And with that awareness, you can kind of project it out with sound and melody. So, I mean, there are songs that are very angry. There are songs that are dark, but it's also the flip. There are songs that are constant. There are songs that are about peace. I mean, all the opposites. You can't have one without the other.
If you don't keep evolving spiritually, that's when we get stuck. So just keep looking deep within and just going with what's right, not what's the norm. I mean, norm's usually not right.
What do I want to show the world with my music? Just that it's there. That it's there, and it's gonna do what it's gonna do for you. I mean, if it does nothing for you, that's fine. If it makes a connection, even better. You can't tell people what to like and what not to like, or why to like it or why not to like it. You can, but inevitably it comes down to everyone has a mind of their own.
You can learn more about Jason Milan and all the artists featured here today on DetroitPerforms.org. Next, let's check out some upcoming events happening in and around Detroit.
To discover more events in Greater Detroit, visit ixity.com.
Up next, we learn how to make a guitar really play. Sure, it takes talent on the part of a musician, as we saw here today, but behind every good guitar player is a skilled craftsman. Or at least that's what Jon Hill would say. Here, Hill explains how his guitars set his customers apart.
I was one of those people where I just loved the wood shop. When I started building guitars, this was in like 83 or 84, and it was a lot of handwork, files and rasps and belt sanders, and I found out early that I kind of had a knack for that stuff, and I started playing guitar, getting interested in guitar, and obviously guitars are made out of wood, so I just kind of thought that I could sort of build my own guitar, and so that's really where it started for me, high school. People that don't play guitar, that build guitars, I don't know how they could do it. I'm just not a great musician where I can just jump up on stage and just hold my own, but I try and play enough to where I understand all the idiosyncrasies that these guys want at a high level.
I never was into custom-made guitars, but for this one, I had to have it. The guitar was so beautiful and the neck was so thin and fast and the action was like a runway, you know. I mean, I was just like, I couldn't stop shredding on it. I just couldn't put it down.
The form always follows function. I believe in that rule 100%. Like, it has to work as an instrument when it's done. You know, I always visualize everything in my head. You know, I can kind of see how it's going to transform into what its final thing is going to be. I would start out with a piece of paper that's big enough for a whole guitar, and I would just strike a center line and take another guitar and kind of trace it and get the basic width elements, you know, the width and the length, and I just sort of start filling in all those pieces of the puzzle until I get it the way I want it to really look, and then I'll transfer all those final curves and drawings, I'll scan it, and then I'll bring it into like a CAD program, engineer it. So after the CNC machine cuts the parts out, CNC stands for Computer Numeric Control, and that just means it's a router head that's controlled by a computer. I have it doing fretboard radiuses, like fret slots, neck shapes. We do have to sand those parts. There's machine marks in them, or you know, like some of the wood could chip off. You know, when the bodies and necks are finish sanded, and then they go to paint. And then the hardware elements. The hardware is like the bridge, the tuning keys, the knobs, the jack plate, things like that. The pickups. Our guitars are different because of the way that they're assembled and set up, where it's a kind of a spiritual thing for me in a way, you know. But I'll clean my workbench off and I'll lay out all the parts like really neat, and you know, with the neck and the body and everything ready to go, and I'll take a picture of it, you know, and I'll send it to the guy and I'll say, hey, I'm starting to assemble your guitar.
He takes a real lot of care into hand making these things from the ground up, every aspect of the guitar. And that's what they used to do in the old days at all the famous guitar companies that we know. Now they just mass producing them so much with machines. It's beautiful. I mean, as far as cosmetically. But if you pick it up, it's really nothing like the ones that were made back in the old days. You know, so each guitar he develops or has an idea to make, it is absolutely made, you know, from the ground up, you know, with every little detail, okay, just right. I mean, he knows exactly what he's doing.
So the assembly process for me lately has been the final chapter in like mastering what the whole guitar is about. Guitars, when they're set up well, people that really have an ear for sound qualities, they appreciate it more.
There are some guitars that are inspirational to someone. You pick them up and all of a sudden you just know, like, oh my God, this is something that, you know, I can't put it down. It's giving me more ideas. It's inspiring me to go farther to another step.
And it motivates them to like write or just be creative. They can like, wow, this really sounds magical, and like, you know, kind of, let me play this chord, and let me like try this thing, and let me play it through this amp, and the next thing that you know, they're creating music, they're playing music, that's where it's all about for me. So I really think that the music in general is what I try and strive for, is just to make it a musical instrument so that people will want to play it, want to write with it, and want to show it to people. I'd like to keep them for about a week after we actually finish the assembly process, and I play them, I tweak them, just dial them in a little bit. But yeah, they're hard to let go. Like you know, if your dog has puppies or something, you got to give all the puppies away, right? It's tough.
To find out more about Jon Hill bootleg guitars, visit the Detroit Performs website. And that wraps it up for this edition of Detroit Performs. As always, for more arts and culture, head to DetroitPerforms.org, where you'll find featured videos, blogs, and information on upcoming arts events. Also, check us out on Facebook and Twitter. I'd like to thank the Majestic Theater for entertaining us today. I strongly urge you to come on out and take in all the Majestic has to offer. Until next Tuesday, get out there and show the world how Detroit performs, y'all. I am DJ Oliver. Thanks for watching, guys.
Funding for Detroit Performs is provided by the Michigan Council for Arts and Cultural Affairs and the National Endowment for the Arts, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.